Hey everybody, in this video I want to give a little more formal introduction to conversation analysis, which we had a chance to play with last week and kind of get a feel for on our own. So with conversation analysis, a couple of things that we're going to be thinking about are turn taking, repair, action formation, and action sequencing. And conversation analysis focuses on how language is used in the form of requests, complaints, proposals, and accusations. And there's a, yep, there we go. Okay, we're going to be thinking about those things, however, in relation to the base communication unit, which is this thing that we've been talking about since the beginning of the semester, built upon the idea of the transactional model of communication, where we send out a signal, we get a signal back, and most importantly, after we get that signal back, we change who we are based on it. Maybe just a little, maybe a lot, but at least some change has to occur or it's not communication. All right, so communication is about change, and it happens for the sender once they get something back from whatever they sent. Okay, so conversation analysis, let me just go back here. Conversation analysis, as you'll learn from the resources for this week, looks at communication, conversation, talking, exchange by exchange at a very, very fine level. And so it's a really appropriate method of looking at the base communication unit and determining where changes occur for each of the communicators in that process. Okay, so we want to know that because, well, probably lots of reasons, but chiefly because where changes occur in communication tells us everything about how power is distributed among the communicators. Okay, so the ways we do, take turns, the ways we repair miscommunication, the way we the actions we do in our speech to get something out of the other, and the sequencing of those actions are all the kinds of things that conversation analysis is looking at. And what you're then will do with that information, the way you process that and make meaning of it and try to use it in your life, is to identify who in a conversation is setting the agenda, like who gets to determine what you're even talking about. The validity definitions, so like in that conversation, who gets to decide what's a valid part of it or not, and then accommodations, who accommodates the needs of the other one in the communicative event. Okay, and so that's basically what we'll be looking at. It is kind of what we've been looking at throughout the semester, but we're going to break it down now at an exchange by exchange level. These are some resources. I'll cut out of this really quickly. I have to stop sharing my screen. I apologize. And we'll take a look here at the actual activity you're going to do this week, which lists the resources in a more linear way. Okay, so what we are going to do now is take a little more analytical look at the conversations around us and how they impact and changes at a like exchange by exchange level. So the first thing you need to do this week is watch the video Intro to Conversation Analysis. It goes through in a little bit more detailed technical way than I have what conversation analysis is. It's only about 4 minutes long. Then you'll watch this video, which I guess you are watching this video. And then there's 2 articles, actually. I'll have to add that link, I notice, and correct my spelling error there. There's 2 articles that you'll have. One is a more general article talking about conversation analysis, its history, how it's used, and what people do with it. The other one is a more technical academic article, basically about the same thing. So read in detail the more general one and peruse the more analytical or the more academic one at a little bit lighter level. And then finally, there's a TED Talk that's about 20 minutes long, quite interesting and pretty funny in places, I think, but specifically in this TED Talk, the presenter shows you how they break up a conversation and what it means to look at it exchange by exchange. So watch the video for at least that part, because it is what you'll be doing in this week's activity. So the activity this week is to identify a conversation in your life that you can examine in detail and is not too personal to discuss with the class. Right? We have a lot of conversations in our lives that are really meant just for the 2 or 3 people involved in that conversation. I'm not asking you, or even hoping, or really hoping you don't find a conversation that is of that category to look at for this assignment. Find one that's a little bit less personal. Then record it. Either if it's a spoken conversation, record it. You could do that through Zoom or FaceTime or something like that, or a video camera or whatever. Or you could also look for a text-based conversation. If you have a long text stream or something with somebody, you can do that, because the texting medium already breaks up our conversation into exchanges. Although in face-to-face, we're more linear in our exchanges and the flow of content. And in text, we often jumble the order and the sequences and carry on a couple conversations at one time in the text because of that jumbling and the delay in response. Interesting part to look at. But I'm diverting a little bit there. So after you find a conversation, text, Facebook Messenger, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever, you're going to come down to this table and fill out the table with who's speaking and then what they say, right? That's listing the exchanges. And it's a transcription activity. It feels a little bit redundant, but the process of recording it gets you more familiar with the conversation at an intricate level, and is an important step, even though I personally hate this step. It still is an important step. So you have to put down who spoke what in the 2 left-hand columns. And then after you've done that for the whole conversation, that's also important to do the whole conversation before you do this 3rd step, which is to write in this right-hand column the changes that occurred between the different exchanges, right? The changes that you occurred. And then lastly, there are a set of focusing questions to sort of get you out of the exchange by exchange way of thinking, and think a little broadly about what the whole set of exchanges can tell you about that relationship. Let me just back up here before I end the video and say that when you find the conversations you're going to use, bound them by a single topic. An example is like when my sweetie comes home, I might ask her, hey, how was your day? And then for a few exchanges, 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 exchanges, she'll share how her day was and probably ask me how mine was. And we'll move on from there to like, what's dinner? Or do you want to go for a ski? Or something like that, right? I want you to bound your analysis by just a single one of those topics in what might be a longer conversation that covers many topics. Okay, with that, I'll turn it off and talk to you all later.